Good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year to you all. Hope everyone's doing well. This is the Vertical Response Getting Started with Surveys webinar. I'm Jill Bastian, and joining me today is Amber Cleve, and we're part of our marketing team here. Just a couple things before we get started. This is one of our shorter webinars, so the webinar itself should go for about 20 to 25 minutes, depending how much we talk. And then at the end, we'll be happy to do a Q&A. So if you think of questions along the way, if you look in your GoToWebinar window, there's a little box that you can type questions into, and we'll be happy to answer as many of those as we can at the end of the webinar. The number one asked question, which we say almost every time we do a webinar, is this being recorded? And the answer is yes, it is being recorded. So we will send out a follow-up email after the webinar is over, and there will be a link to the recorded version in that email. So let's go ahead and get started with the webinar. So this is our agenda for this afternoon. We're going to go over why you want to do a survey in the first place, some things to keep in mind when you're creating your survey. We also have some ideas for your survey, some things that you want to maybe ask your recipients, some tips. We also have a few survey examples to help get your ideas flowing, a little bit about our own survey product, and then we're going to do the Q&A at the end. So first of all, why do a survey? This is a great opportunity for you to get feedback from your customers or your recipients or people who are part of your organization. So you can ask them how your company is doing or what your company is doing or what you could improve. It's a great way for you to find out what your customers need or want from your company in terms of service, in terms of products that you offer, customer service, whatever it is that they need from you. This is a great way for you to find out. It's also a good time for you to ask questions. You know, maybe you can ask them a question. What are you looking for? Do you see something that is missing in our service? What would you recommend that we do? Do you recommend us getting a product? So it's a great time to get feedback from them. A lot of times your communication is usually in one direction. You're sending them emails, you're sending them postcards maybe. You're posting on your blog, you're posting on Facebook or Twitter, but you're not necessarily getting that information back from them. So this is a great way for you to be able to get some information from your audience by asking them questions. It's also a great way to find advocates for your business. Advocates are a great resource for your company. You can use quotes from people who love you on your website or your blog. You can use it in your email marketing. And they're also great for spreading how wonderful your company is by word of mouth. So it's a great way for you to find people who are like this, who really enjoy what you provide. And it's also a good way to help you keep your customers up on what your company is doing. New products you might have coming out. I was telling Amber the other day about a survey experience that I had. Somebody who I'm on their mailing list did a survey, and I don't mind doing surveys. This one was kind of a long one, but they had an incentive, which was good. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about the survey was it was on new products that they were working on or thinking about, and it gave me a new insight into this company, which I use their products, but because of some of the innovation that I saw in at least what they were thinking about for new products, made me want to use their products and the company a lot more than I had in the past. And they're definitely somebody that I now think of when I'm looking for something specific that they might provide. So it was a great way for me to find out what was going on, and it's a great way for you to get your customers more involved and become more part of what your company is offering. So let's see, some things to keep in mind. So as I said, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind when you're creating your survey. Before you compose the very first question on your survey, you really want to make sure that you're thinking through who is going to be taking your survey, including any subsets of a list that you might be sending to. So maybe you're creating a targeted list for this survey. You also want to understand the people that you're sending the survey to. What is their experience with your product or service? what are they going to be capable of answering when you're sending out these questions to them. You also want to think about what information do you want them to give you, and also what kind of actions are you going to be able to take based on the information that they're giving to you. So always have a specific goal in mind. Think of what you want to ask, the questions that you want to ask your recipients, and then pare down those questions to the best ones. So you can write them out and then go through and see which ones seem more relevant, um, or maybe things that you want to reword. We do have templates in our system, which we're going to go over a little bit later, some of the ones that we offer here. So we do have some pre-written questions for you, but you probably have specific things that you want to ask as well. Also, you want to make sure that the questions that you're asking are clear and concise. You don't want them to be confusing, otherwise people are not going to be able to answer the question, and the information you get back from the survey is not going to be very accurate if they don't know what's going on. You also want to be careful with acronyms. If you must use an acronym, and everybody has acronyms in their business, I know we have lots of them here that we use. You want to make sure that the people taking your survey understand what you're talking about. So if you have to use an acronym, make sure you spell that out the first time you use it so they know what you're talking about. So for example, something we talk about here all the time are ISPs, which is Internet Service Provider. We always assume everyone knows what ISP means, but that's not necessarily true. So that's something you want to make sure that your recipients and the people taking the survey understand everything that you're talking about so that you get a good result. We usually recommend that you keep your survey short. The reason is that if it gets too long, people have a tendency to drop out, so you're not going to get all of the information that you want to get from the people taking the survey. If you feel that the survey has to be fairly long, then you probably want to give your recipients or your respondents an incentive to finish the survey. And that could be anything, maybe a coffee card. The survey that I was talking about earlier, I was entered into a drawing to win some of the products that I got to look at in the survey. So you could do a drawing for a service, for a product, something like that, even for a coffee card. Just give the respondents some reason to go through and finish the survey if it's going to be a long one. Another thing along that same line is you can set expectations for the length of the survey. So you can say, please take this 5-question survey, or there's 6 pages to this survey, and if you're using our survey product, you can add that to the top of the pages so people can see how far in the process they are, which makes it easier for them to say, okay, well, I can finish this. There's only 2 more pages, and it's pretty short. Also, you want to try to keep people's interest, so try putting some interesting questions at the beginning of the survey and put things like, if you're collecting like their name and their address or whatever, put that at the end where they may not be quite so interested in what's going on, but they can easily enter their name and their address. Collect that information at the end and put something that'll really grab them at the beginning. And then also make sure that the survey is something that's relevant to your participants. If it's something that they're not interested in, they're not going to even want to take it in the first place. And even if they start it and find out that what you're asking them has nothing to do with how they use your system or how they use your products, then they're going to drop out and you're not going to get a very good statistic for your responses.
Okay, so now we'll talk about some ideas for surveys. Um, you can ask your customers what they do or don't like about your product, your company name, your customer service, anything. Um, and then you can get new product feedback. And as Jill was mentioning, you can also ask about new products that you're thinking of offering. Excuse me, you can do changes to your website. What do they think about a new landing page or a new login page? This is really important this time of year, but like an end of the year, how did we do survey, kind of a year in review or a recap, as well as what would you like to see in the new year?
This is something we see quite a bit here, actually, in the emails that are going out through our system. A lot of people send out surveys this time of year, especially after the fourth quarter. If you're in a business that's selling or providing a service that's relevant to all the holidays, it's a good time to find out how you did. And, it's still fresh in people's minds, and January is kind of a slow month anyway for most people. So it's a good time to ask people how your previous year went.
Mhm. And then in addition to new products, you could also ask people about new services that you'd like to offer, and then we will show you some examples of some of this coming up. And then a few more ideas for surveys. So communication preference is a big one. There's a lot of different ways to communicate to people right now. Email, direct mail, whether it's a postcard or a letter. Then there's social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. So you want to figure out what is the best way for you to reach your audience. How do they want to hear from you? And then that way you can communicate with them in the way that they want to receive information. Um, as well, you can ask them what types of information they would like to receive through these different mediums. Sometimes people like longer information in an email or a newsletter and just little sound bites on, Twitter or Facebook. So you want to make sure that you're not only communicating with people in the way they want to be, but you're also providing them the information that they want through that tool. You can also ask people how often would they like to receive an email from you? What would they like in an email? It's a great way to figure out your mailing frequency and how people are responding to it. If you're concerned about your open rates or your click-through rates, you can change your frequency, but you can also just send a survey and straight out ask people. And sometimes
Mhm.
that's the best way to get the information that you need. And then, of course, voting for organizations. You could do internal voting or even external voting. We do this internally with our tool. We had a holiday decoration contest, and everybody got really crazy around the office. And the survey is a really easy way to vote for what team you think had the best decorations.
We also used it recently to poll the people on our mailing list about where they would like us to do user seminars.
Yes.
We have a series of user seminars that we're doing this year, and we sent out a survey to the people on our mailing list to find out where they would be willing to go, or their ideas of where there should be a user seminar, and then what information we should provide. So that was really useful for us when we were planning out this year what our user seminars were going to be.
Yeah, it was definitely helpful because we can go where we're going to be of the most help to our customers. And in addition to that, we were able to survey on what price point people would be willing to pay because
Yep.
we don't want to charge too much, but we don't want to make it seem cheap either. So it's a great way to get that kind of insight. Good point, Jill. And then now we have a few survey tips to keep in mind. So the first one here is to test, and you want to get rid of any redundant or confusing questions. So before you send a survey, it's the same as an email. You
Yeah.
send it out internally, have some other people look at it with a fresh set of eyes.
Yes.
Sometimes I write a question that makes complete sense to me, and someone else reads it and is like, I don't know what you're asking me. So you want to make sure that the question is going to get you the type of answer you're looking for.
And if you're using our tool, we require that you test the survey before you send it live anyway. But you can invite other people from your company or organization to test the survey as well, just so that, like Amber said, you can get another set of eyes on it.
Yeah, it's really easy to do in our tool. And as well, you can monitor your response rates. And if you're not getting the kind of responses you thought, you can, revise your questions, something to consider. So that's a way to get some feedback. As well, you want to avoid stating questions in the negative. It can be confusing if a phrase is negative and the respondent has to say, like yes in order to confirm the negative statement. So it's always good to come at it with like a positive, straightforward uh, angle or direction. And then another thing to do is think about what you would be willing to answer. And then ask those kinds of questions because you don't want to ask anything that might be like a seemed a breach of privacy to your customers, and also think about like what kind of a relationship you already have established with these people that have been a customer of yours for a while or on a mailing list for a while. They might be more, or an advocate, they might be more inclined to give you more information. But if it's people that you're just establishing a new relationship with, you might want to ask different types of questions. So that's something to consider when thinking about your audience and the type of questions to ask. And then of course, shorter is better, as Jill mentioned before, because people do have limited attention spans.
And limited time
And
too. I mean,
absolutely.
it can take a little while sometimes for
Totally,
surveys.
especially if, the questions you're asking require a particular amount of thought, or if they're like a long answer question
Mhm.
instead of just a, select one, two, or three, or
Right.
there's just a lot of options.
Mhm.
So those are all things to keep in mind. Um, and another thing is that you want to keep the survey open long enough for people to respond. So you set the survey live, and then at a certain point down the road, you can close the survey. So you want to make sure that you have it open long enough that people can interact and engage with it. And something that you can do to get a better response rate is to send out follow up reminders, and just let people know through an email. We sent this survey. Here, time's running out to respond,
Mhm.
or we really want to know what you think, anything like that, and just encourage people and remind them, because sometimes things are missed. Um, and then another thing you can consider, is your survey invitation, and you want your invitation to be personalized and provide a compelling reason for people to participate in the survey. So a poorly written invitation can really deter people from responding if it doesn't catch their attention. So the subject line or tagline is really important, and you want to make sure that the invitation is short, concise, clear, and persuasive as well. If the email invitation is way too long, people won't even get to the
Right.
survey part.
That's a good point. I do remember somebody who was sending out just their regular newsletter email, and they included a link to their survey at the very bottom, but the newsletter was very long, and they couldn't understand why no one had taken the survey. But that's why. I mean, I would suggest if you're sending out a survey that you send a specific invitation only for the survey so that it isn't confusing to your recipients, or that the link is at the bottom of an email that they didn't get to the bottom of because it was too long. They're never going to know you have a survey. I mean, there isn't anything wrong with including the link in
Right.
a newsletter, but I would send out a specific invitation email to make sure that you're reaching the audience that you want to reach.
Yeah, for example, we send follow-up emails to our webinars, and a lot of them, they have links to take a survey, but it's a very targeted, tailored message with a few resources, links to the slides, and then a survey link. And so there's not a whole lot of information there. But sometimes if we're doing a really specific survey, like a net promoter survey or something, that will be the only thing in the email that we're
Right.
sending out. And if it's an ongoing survey, you can send an invitation that is specific to it, and then you can send some follow-up emails with newsletters or whatever, and also include the link, so it gives people more of an opportunity. As well, you can put it on social media, depending upon the audience that you're
Right.
trying to
Your
target.
website. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, just to talk to this a little bit more, as far as response rates go, because people do ask this, a 10% response rate is around average, and that's good. But using some of the tips for surveys and invitations that we're talking about could also help you improve that. And as well, setting up expectations will really help your response rates too. So if you mention, and I think she did talk to this before, 3-question survey, 1-minute survey, people will have an idea of
Yeah.
how long it is.
So a little bit about our survey product. Just a couple of slides. We're going to go over some of this. We do have templates that are available. The templates have a lot of different questions that are available, and there's even in these different categories that we have here, we have a sales one, customer satisfaction, product feedback. There's surveys for organizations like nonprofits, or for event planning, website, and even employee feedback surveys. They all have built-in questions. There's a couple of templates for each one, and the questions were actually written by a professional in this area. It wasn't just some random thing that we put together to give you an idea of what you should ask. The questions are actual questions that will give you the type of feedback that you're looking for. You can certainly go in and edit them. Some of them seem a little bit formal, and some of them may not have any relevance to what you're trying to find out, but they're a great way for you to get started with the sort of things that you should ask if you're asking questions about customer satisfaction, for example, because that could get really touchy with some people. So you might want to take a look at some of the templates that are already set up to at least give you a starting point if you're planning on sending out a survey soon.
Okay, so here's just a few fun survey examples. So this one I really loved. It's from Sephora, and it just says, "We want you to kiss and tell." So they're asking for you to actually write a review. They want to know your opinion. That's really nice how they worded that. We love your opinion. So you can rate, which is, quick survey. What would you rate it on a score of 1 to 10 or whatever, however you want to word that. And then you can also have an open-ended question, which is a way to get a review about something. So I just really enjoyed this. I thought it was very compelling and cute. And this one is a really good one that just came through over the holidays as well. And it says, "Tell us what you think, and you could win a $500 Ticketmaster gift card." So this is really great. They want your opinion on a new look, a new attitude, a new feel, new features, all great things to survey your audience on. And they have an incentive, which is wonderful. And I clicked through, and it was just a 5-question survey.
Nice.
I don't even think they say that on here. They could. That might even make it
Yeah.
more compelling. But
Yeah, that's great.
short
5
question
questions is
and
good.
500 Ticketmaster gift cards? Yes, please. And then this is just a really cute email that shows how you can take testimonials and ratings that you get, reviews from your customers through a survey, and use it to sell your products. So they show some ratings here, 5 hearts. They have some customer reviews. And that's just a great way to take that information and to continue the sales process.
So this is an example of where you could get find your advocates in a survey,
Yes.
and you can use your advocates for
People
quotes
that
on your
love
website.
you. You obviously wouldn't put a quote of someone that says, "I hate this product."
This product made me break out. Oh, this is a fancy slide. Sorry about that. You can look at the whole thing. So this is a little bit about our surveys. There is a test drive, so if you haven't used surveys in vertical response before, there is a test drive where you can get live responses. You have full access to the survey product. It isn't, even in the test drive, it isn't a limited test. It is everything you would get for your surveys. And you'll also be able to see the results. And once you've start getting results from your survey, there's charts and graphs that you'll be able to easily see how people are responding to your survey, and that information can be exported. So if you need to share that with someone on a board or your boss or something like that, it's really easy to share those graphs to make it really clear how people are responding. And then we also have information about the subscription. So the surveys are a separate subscription, and they're just based on the number of live responses you receive, and it's just broken up into tiers. It's a monthly subscription, so you could do it for 1 month if you just wanted to have one survey. If you do surveys on a regular basis, and I know a lot of people do, you can just leave your subscription going, and then you can continue to get the responses from your surveys.
One thing I wanted to add real quickly, we generally don't consider surveys to be like revenue generating, but we're constantly surprised by how much revenue we do generate when we send out a survey. So people are really responsive to it. Just throwing that out there.
And there is a way, what she's referring to is when you send out an email in vertical response, we do have a way of tracking purchases that are made through the emails. So you can use our system to send an email to invite people to take your survey. And then if you're using our ROI tracking feature, which is free in your account, you can see if any of your emails are generating money, and that's what Amber's referring to. So even the survey emails for us will sometimes generate revenue.
Yes, I encourage you to do that.
It's free, setting up the ROI calculator.